if Sanjeev was on the field and Sanjeev is carrying a gas monitor and he's carrying a respirator, and Sanjeev's gas monitor just informed him that, hey, guess what? You've just been exposed to H2S. Now, how does he ensure that his respirator has the right filtration mechanism for that particular gas versus his CO? This insight in real time is what makes Aatmunn almost unique in this space. So if you think of obstacles that we experience, it's a reflection of the obstacles our customers experience. At the end of the day, the customers or the enterprises have to experience something, and that is a reflection of what organizations like us and our friends in the industry would experience. So the first thing that we see as obstacles is customers and people are not trying to solve or buy platforms. They're trying to solve specific issues they face on their day-to-day operations. So for instance, somebody has an issue with heat stress, or somebody can't find their workers when they've been mustering or an emergency evacuation, or somebody feels that the workers do not have adequate record of the equipment they're using being inspected as per OSHA compliance, as per OSHA requirements. So these are specific problems that customers are trying to solve. And the way the world, including our competitors, have tried to solve this is they've tried to solve it in a piecemeal basis. What I mean by that is, if you go out there and you would say, okay, here's a point solution to solve heat stress. So somebody's heart rate, somebody's core body temperature is high. Or here's a specific solution to solve, process compliance. Like, are you actually following the standard operating procedure that's been laid out as described in a digital fashion through a digital aid? Or somebody's trying to solve, say, a time and attendance issue for their contractors. Like, are their contractors really on site at the right time, in the right place? The issue then, if that becomes where everybody's put their attention on, what you have is a plethora of solutions out there. Now, everybody has the same kind of operating model, which is I have an app or I have a device. I have the device connecting to a backend AWS or an Azure backend platform through an IoT-based platform. And then I have a visualization tool, right? That's the standard model in which they've built. Now put yourself in the shoes of the customer. As I mentioned, if the human being is going to get converted into a Christmas tree eventually with multiple different devices, and if the human being is carrying, say, just purely five safety devices on themselves, a safety shoe, a safety boot, a steel tip boot, a helmet, say a safety vest, a gas monitor, and say, a set of gloves. I'm just taking simple. This is the standard equipment that a PPE is being carried. As these devices become connected in the future, so what is the employer looking at, or what is the employee looking at? He's looking at 5 different screens to figure out, one, is his boot, recommended in that particular environment, because particular environments require steel tip boots. Are you walking in with the right set of boots in that environment? Are you having the right type of hearing protection? Do you have the right kind of helmet? Do you have the right kind of gas monitor being calibrated? What's the level of gas exposure in that particular time? So effectively, both the employee or the worker and the employer is looking at 5 different screens to figure out what is going on. And now let me complicate the problem one step further. You don't have just one company producing one type of device. You have multiple companies providing the same device. So now, assuming a gas detector is produced by Honeywell, it's also being produced by MSA, it's also being produced by Industrial Scientific, it's also being produced by Blackline Safety. And nowhere will you find companies standardizing on one brand or one type of, one device. They like to keep their options open and buy multiple types of devices. So now those 5 screens get complicated into, 3 more. Multiply that by 3. So there's 15 screens trying to figure out what's going on with the human being. So effectively what happens? Nobody's stitching all this information together as it relates to the human being. And you're looking at different screens trying to make sense of what's going on. Because you might see a heat stress moment, but that heat stress could have been caused by the fact that the person was exposed or was fatigued coming in or had sleep deprivation coming in, whatever be the case, were exposed before that to a high noise environment. So from that perspective, as we look at it, that's where Aatmunn's power comes to bear. What we do is we read all of these different devices, all of these different applications, and provide it into a single source of truth, a single database, a single data platform. And then we visualize it on a single platform. Now we're not greedy enough to say that it has to be having our brand on it, right? So what we say is, fine, just adopt our platform if you're a customer, and you can call it your own platform. Or if you're a device manufacturer, an example of that is, say, RKI Instruments. RKI makes gas detectors. You can just call it yours. We're not greedy, and we're not hungry enough to say that it has to be our branding all over. What we're basically solving is two critical issues. One, this plethora of solutions that are single point solutions, right? That's being all combined into one data centric, human centric model, and the ability to visualize that fairly quickly in a single, coherent fashion for customers and workers. But the other added advantage that we have, even for some of our so called competitors, I don't call them competitors, I actually call them partners, is now we're offering them a very low cost way without having to invest in a software platform or trying to build one to onboard their own connected devices in their journey onto this platform without having to build one, while still retaining the kind of the advantages of ownership, for lack of a better word, branding, the ability to interact with other devices. That opens up a whole slew of new use cases for workers. So, give you a simple example. If Sanjeev was on the field and Sanjeev is carrying a gas monitor and he's carrying a respirator, and Sanjeev's gas monitor just informed him that, hey, guess what? You've just been exposed to H2S. Now, how does he ensure that his respirator is the right filtration mechanism for that particular gas versus a CO? This insight in real time is what makes Aatmunn almost unique in this space. There's almost we don't know of anybody who has this approach to the market, where we go both to end customers as well as to our friends, as we call it, on the back end, and say, why spend 30, 40, $50 million trying to build a new platform? Just join this, onboard your devices in a matter of minutes, not a matter of years, and join a whole set of existing applications that are already out there trying to solve customer problems. So that's the gist of how we differentiate, how we're different from anybody else. Most people are trying to solve one problem, right? And then they have an issue saying, how do I expand this further? You see this with companies like Safety Culture or others who are solving one issue and then trying to expand further. Because we started with such a broad base, it's much easier for us to then incorporate all these different varying data streams into our platform and give you one human-centric kind of image. Yeah, so I think education comes in two phases, if not three. The first phase, there is minimal education because they're trying to solve a particular issue, whether it be heat stress or safety compliance or inspection or name it. There's so many of them, like collision avoidance. What comes next is the beauty of this platform, where we tell them, Mr. Customer, the best way to think about what you've just bought is you've bought a platform where you can add on infinite more applications or devices onto the same backend platform. Oh, great. So if I have a problem with time and attendance, I can use the same platform? Yes, sir, you can. Oh, I didn't realize. So that's the second phase of education.